Welcome back to Everybody Loves Scott. Today I got the Templar out here and I wanted to talk to you about the carburetor. Because I know everybody gets their bike, they ride it, it is carbureted, maybe it runs good for you, maybe it doesn't. Well, you know what you need to do is you need to ride it for a few miles and kind of break the carburetor in. And then you got to make that decision what you want to do. A lot of people are going to tell you, get the NIBBI carburetor, swap it out, it's a Chinese carburetor, it's no good. Well, I think I can dispel that rumor. Because I actually rejetted my carburetor, and I gotta say, it runs like a champ. So what I'd like to do is talk to you about, do you need the NIBBI, do you want to spend the money, or do you want to just rejet? So I kind of want to go over the procedures of how I did that, how I removed the carburetor, the jetting that I use, and the performance that I got out of it. So if you're interested in talking about carburetors, I'll meet you in the garage, and we'll do just that. Welcome to Everybody Loves Scots, where I review China bikes and I document the experience of the bike. When you've got what you want, maybe I should start over. Okay, welcome back. We're in the garage and today we've got the Templar M and we're talking about carburation. So I'm going to give you two options here. Do you want to get yourself a NIBBI carburetor, or do you maybe just want to rejet your carburetor? Now, one thing is the NIBBI carburetors, you can buy it, $85 to $100. You install it in your bike. Chances are it's going to run, and it's probably going to run good. And they look really good. And I'm going to show you because I actually put one on the Hawk 125. So take a look at this. And I understand why people want the NIBBI. That's a good-looking carburetor, you got to admit. It's probably worth $100 just to look like that. But the other option is we can actually just rejet the standard carburation that comes with the bike. And I know with the Chinese bikes, people say those carburetors are garbage. I've seen many videos, and they say just throw it away and put in the NIBBI. But that's not necessarily true. And the reason I say that is because I took my carburetor out, and I rejetted it, and it runs great. So I'm going to kind of go through what you would need to do to make that happen. So I got my example carburetor right here. So after you take it out of the bike, real important is make sure you clean all the fuel out, because we're going to do a little grinding. You might throw a spark and you don't want to start a fire. So what you're going to look at underneath, I've already got new screws in, but they look like rivets. So what you actually have to do is you just take your Dremel tool with the cutter and you just want to cut a line in there. And that will allow you to take your standard screwdriver and unscrew them and remove them. Sometimes it might even break the whole head off, and that's okay because you can just remove the bowl and you're good to go. So once you get those screws out, and it may take you a couple minutes, and I know some people, if you don't have a Dremel tool, you can use a hacksaw blade. That might take a little more work to do. The Dremel is definitely a good way to go. So you get all your screws out, and you see the bowl comes right off. And here you can see you got your floats. And this is what you're after. These are your jets. You get your main jet and your pilot jet. The pilot jet is for like idle up to quarter throttle. The other one is from quarter throttle all the way up to full throttle. And they're little brass pieces, and you just go in there with a screwdriver, and you can just unscrew it. They're not tight because they are brass. And you pull them out, and there's actually a number on the side of it. You're not going to be able to see it. Chances are you got to do a magnifying glass. That's what I had to do. But with the Templar, it actually came stock with a 120 jet, and I put a 125 main in, and it was a 40 on the pilot, and I put a 42. So what you do is you just find the jet that you want, you screw it back in there, snug it up a little bit, good to go. Not tight because it is brass. And then after you put your jets in there, you simply put your bowl back on, you install all your screws, bam, you got it in there, you put it back in your bike, and then you just go ahead and you start it up, put it back together, start it up, should be good to go. Now, the few things that you're going to need for this, I bought some bags of jets, and I got them on Amazon, so you can buy a variety of the jets, and like I say, it'll give you everything that you need. And then you also need a set of screws, and I bought this set here. It's a variety pack so that you can actually find the screws that you need for actually putting the bowl back on. And that's all you need. You're looking at $35, $40 for that versus $85 to $100 for the other carburetor. I did this, it ran great. And the reason you want to do this is because of the EPA, they actually run really lean when you get them. You know, you ride your bike around, you get it broken in and everything, and it may be backfiring, just not running the way you want it. This is why you would do this. You just give it a little more fuel in there, you adjust it to your elevation, get it to run the way you want to do. Now, one of the things I noticed with removing a carburetor, because if you look at the bike, based on the way the frame is, nice style to the frame, but it's hard to get to your carburetor right here. Some people will actually try to pull it through on the front here, very difficult to do. When I did the shock video, I was talking about removing the shock, and this is what I did, remove the shock, and it gives you a lot of room to get your carburetor out. So you can get it out, rejet it, put it back in there, doesn't seem to be a problem. So really what it comes down to is you have to make a decision. I mean, neither one of these options is going to break the bank. You just got to decide, do you want to use the carburetor, which is still a very good carburetor, or do you want to upgrade to the NIBBI? Because it's as simple as rejet it, you're not happy with it, get the NIBBI. I get that. So with that, it's that simple. You got to decide what you want to do with that. And I don't think either one of them is going to be a problem for anybody to do. You got two hands, you're not afraid to do a little work, get dirty, this happens. So what I wanted to also show you, there's a few other things on the bike that I noticed that you might want to take a look at. One of them was when I was removing the carburetor, this is your fuel line from the tank on the right hand side. When the bike comes to you, there's a little bracket in here. This fuel line was pressed right up against the head. Really not a good idea for that much heat to be boiling your fuel. So if you go in here, you can take a long screwdriver and you can actually push that out a little bit, and that'll free up some of that room right there so you don't overheat your fuel. Now another thing I noticed, and I know people have said they've had issues with, is the rear tail light. And with the tail light, a lot of people were having, more so in the wet climates, is this light was filling up with water. So what happens is there's some wires that run through the back here, and they go into your light, but there's a big gaping hole. So all you need to do is take a little sealant, and I'll add a picture to show you what I'm talking about. Add a little sealant to that, and that'll eliminate dirt and water actually getting inside the tail light. And I think that'll help you out. One other thing I noticed, and that was with the front brakes. And what happened was I was out riding and I noticed this hard plastic piece here, and this is a protectant that slides up and down in this little shaft right here. It ended up cracking, and once that plastic cracks, you got the soft brake lines inside there. Now if that was to get cut or something when you're out riding, you'll end up losing your front brakes. So what I did is I got a piece of it's like fuel line. I split it, cut it, and covered that section up. So now when your suspension goes up and down, it slides on this area here, and it doesn't affect the hard plastic. So I think that's a pretty good fix. So I'm just saying, take a look at your bike, see if you got a crack or anything. If so, this is definitely something you can do, and you can make that fix. Now one other thing I want to show you, after you do all your work, you can do an oil change, and you might forget when was the last time you did an oil change, when did you, any servicing or maintenance that you do on your bike. So if you really want to mess with your friends and family, because it seems to affect people that way, is make a binder up for every vehicle you have. So I got this little 1-inch binder, put a picture of the bike on the front, and inside, you know, you got your paperwork, you got your owner's manual. You can put all your paperwork from when you bought the bike. But I list all the servicing from the build day of the bike. So everything that you do to it, if you put a new spark plug in, adjust the shocks, whatever you do, I include all that information. So this is a great little reminder, so you know when you have to change oil, say when did I rejet the carburetor, and you want to include that information, because if you're not happy with it and you want to make changes, you got all that in your book right here. So with that, this might be a little anal, but you know what? I think it works. So if you like what you've seen here today, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you with the next video.